As a fan of games like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, where you're granted near total freedom of your day-to-day activities, Bear and Breakfast was in my line of sight when announced at an Indie World Showcase in 2020, and quickly became my most anticipated indie game. Patiently waiting for more announcements about the game, my itch for lifestyle sim games was growing since I took a prolonged hibernation after New Horizons. Then release day arrived, and I was quite underwhelmed. In Bear and Breakfast, you play as a bear named Hank and interact with a multitude of wildlife friends as they help them grow his breakfast empire to attract humans to the forest. The initial pitch for Bear and Breakfast is a management adventure sim about leading your own chain of bed and breakfasts by building and customizing rooms to your guests' liking. The management boils down to a delicate balance of decorations, amenity access, and amenity quality. Each new type of amenity is introduced in steps at each new B&B location, which grants a nice evolution feeling to your business. Unfortunately, that evolution happens way too slowly, as when you eventually unlock everything, you're about 85% through the game, and only have one more location to open. This means I didn't get the total creative freedom I was looking for with this type of game. It doesn't even give you an option to add newly unlocked amenities to your previously open locations, as those locations were locked to certain amenities. The actual guest management system is robust and easily understandable, but quickly becomes a chore when trying to balance the criteria of each guest. The game eventually gives you access to employees that do the tasks for you, but I feel like it just ends up removing a chunk of the core game. The room decoration system didn't let me feel creative either, as most of the furniture items are somewhat generic pieces you would find in any cabin. Since there is a strong criteria for decoration, some rooms ended up being full to the brim of items that never looked very good together. The way you unlock new furniture types is convoluted and unsatisfying, since there isn't much variety in the furniture. Not to mention the guests themselves are just hollow, uninteractable NPCs that only have randomly generated criterias for their stay, which nukes my motivation to even continue serving them. The animation and art style is probably the best part of the game, and each animal's dialogue is very well written. But even with the relatable dialogue at the get-go, the game throws you into an unskippable dialogue-heavy story that was instantly unengaging. When the game was first shown off, it looked to be focused on the creative management system. But I feel like something might have changed in development, and the story ended up taking priority. The world you quote-unquote explore is quite empty, and there's no reason to explore since you unlock parts of the map by completing quests and not by self-discovery, so putting adventure in one of the genres doesn't really fit. Every in-game day seemed to throw more and more tasks the player's way, but they were quickly finished each time within a few minutes, leaving the player with empty time before nightfall, so the player is really just sitting there at their computer until the sun finally sets and you can skip through the night. The game also locks essential mechanics behind the main linear quest line. Things like a map, increased walking speed, a clock, and other quality of life improvements. I think I understand the angle that they were taking with the unlocking system, but it didn't feel satisfying since these features are usually given at the start of a game. Same goes for the inventory size. Up until about halfway through the game, inventory management was a cinch, and I never thought I would run out of space. Then I unlocked the cooking feature, and that's where the inventory management fell apart. The system lacks the functions to stack items and quickly move them from inventory to stash box, which started feeling like the old Minecraft inventory management with the amount of items to keep track of. Bear and Breakfast is an indie game that I was much looking forward to, but it didn't deliver on the game I was expecting it to be. Again, as a fan of cozy, nonchalant games like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, I can see where the inspiration came from, but none of the mechanics presented were polished and felt way too limiting and linear for me to be engaged enough. Luckily, the small team of developers at Gummy Cat listen to feedback from their community and update the game accordingly. Bear and Breakfast cozies up to C tier.